Hello, welcome. I am Sarah Voronov and I'm sharing about my Rebirthing Breathwork Mastery practitioner training. Today was session 15 and it was a big session. I'm going to put a bit of a trigger warning here that I do talk about sexual abuse. Not in any explicit details, but it's just kind of mentioned with the lessons and things that kind of came up. So if that's not for you, then you can keep going, like watch another video. So my intention that I had for this breathe was around money, actually. So I had been noticing that I'm wanting my business income to be continually expanding, and it's been going up and down. And although I've done some work and rewiring around money and receiving and abundance and all of this, I had just noticed that I had been, maybe a little bit in like the scarcity side of thing, or like, not full trusting that it's all coming in. And so I'm going to read you out my intention. I always have really big, long ones, but that's just how I am. Because I like it to be long, because it includes everything that I need it to. So my intention was, I intend to feel deserving to have connected family time and continually expand the amount of money I am receiving in my business, for it to feel easy, comfortable, spacious, luxurious, and in alignment for my soul's purpose. I intend for it to feel so good to create, have, receive, and spend money, for it to be a true embodiment, knowing that this would allow me to feel fulfilled, expansive, energetic, complete trust, connected, happy, keep growing, and relaxed, that it's all available, and freedom to create anything I desire and be me. So, big intention, big stuff. And I felt, after I set the intention, like really expansive in my chest. I was really open and it felt really freeing. And then I got into my breathe. And I wasn't sure, I'm not sure anyone who watches this at any point in time, but the case with P. Diddy and Cassie around the sexual abuse that they had experienced. That was sort of like in the back of my mind, because I've been watching the way the court case had been going. And I think it's because it brought up my own experiences with sexual abuse, particularly when I was a child. And I have done lots of different works on the piece of this, but in my breathe, in my mind, I was like, oh, what? Why is this coming up? No, that's over here. We're meant to focus on money. It's about money. But that feeling of like the this imagery that I had kept coming up, and I saw it kind of like this box was like all white and pristine, like the thing that I'm not meant to be focusing on, this black ball, which was the sexual abuse that I experienced when I was a child. And I kept saying, what has this got to do with money? What has this got to do with money? And then I asked myself, like, what if, because you meant to include everything with your breathwork experience, what if I included it? And instead of squashing it and trying to move it, I included it a part of my experience, and I just welcomed it and sat with it. And I noticed with my breathing, even though I could breathe fairly easily in and out, it felt like my throat was restricting it, like this big bag, and I was like skimming the top of it. I wasn't allowing it all to come in. And I had this particular image in my head, which was me as a little girl in the lounge room with this man, where I experienced some stuff. And that image was consistent. And when you, in breath work, when you have a constant image or a constant thought or feeling that just won't shift, that's when you can put your hand up and you can kind of dialogue with the facilitator. Although in my mind, I wanted to, but I felt like, this is too big to talk about. This is out of context. Like, I just talked about my intention around money, and this is not it. And someone else was already dialoguing, like talking about what was happening. And so I could hear what the facilitator was saying, like, okay, what do you feel when you look at this image? Like, what is it that you need? And so I kind of was just listening to what she was asking the other person and trying to get that to reflect back with what I was experiencing. Because the thing that was coming up for me, the reason why I now know why my sexual abuse came up, was because it was around pleasure and receiving. And that, you know, in order to have money, in order to feel good about creating it and spending it and having it, you have to allow yourself to feel pleasure, to feel good about that process. And I was not feeling good, like, you know, from when I was little, I think I had associated feeling good and having pleasure as something bad. There was a lot of shame entangled with that. Like, I shouldn't have felt good because you're not meant to feel good with a perpetrator. So there was a lot of stuff wrapped in that. And really all I needed to do was tell my little girl that it was okay, that it wasn't her fault. And she wasn't bad for her feelings. I mean, that was the major thing. Because whether it's sexual abuse, whether it's other major things in our life, it's never really what happens. It's what we make it mean. And in that moment, my little girl made feeling good a bad thing. And I was just sitting with it, and then I was like really focusing on how my body was feeling, and this gentle kind of opening of allowing myself to breathe fully and go, it's okay to feel good. It's okay to feel pleasure. And like just staying with it, and that kept going in my head. And then I could slowly feel my throat opening up, like my face, like the air. And I could feel some movements in my forehead, almost my nasal passageways, and just everything started to open up. And then it felt good to breathe, this feeling of like, it's okay to feel pleasure. It's okay to feel good, and just allowing that to be. And then, you know, it felt like I saw this other image, and it was almost like as if it was like God's hand coming down, and I was this tree and like putting me into the earth. And whether you believe in God or universe or source energy, whatever it is, that's what was like me being a tree being put into this earth. And I felt like, you know, trees, they have to have their roots all the way down deep into the ground, and then they absorb everything up, and then they help to nourish themselves, and then that's how they grow big and strong. And I could see myself, and I was breathing it all in, and it felt really good, and I was like, yes, I have to absorb the nutrients and everything that I need and feel good. But then I had this thought of, what if like the word rape came to my head. It was like, what if I just keep sucking up all the nutrients, and then I deplete this ground, the nutrients, and the soil's gone. And I was like, I don't want that. And someone else was dialoguing at that point as well. And again, it was like, what do you need? And I was like, well, I'd need to know that the soil was always going to be nourished. Like, there was always going to be people putting in the nutrients that it needed. And it was going to get the water, and it was going to have the sunshine, this continual sort of process of getting all that it needed. And so then once I know that it's always nourished, then I can absorb and take it all in. And it kind of reminded me, I'm not sure if you watched my other video around the abundance shop that I got in my last breathe, but that everything's always available, it's always open and always replaced. And so I saw that, this feeling of like, okay, because having the soil always nourished and all that it needed is really about safety and trust. If I can feel that safety and trust that the soil is always there, that I'm always going to be nourished, then I can take in what I need so I can grow And again, that's about receiving and growing. It's all related to the money thing. And so I saw myself breathing up all these nutrients, taking it in, growing like a tree, being nice and big, and like that image of like being this tree that grows so big, so far and so wide. You know those trees, if you go to a park and you want a nice place to have a picnic and you look for the tree that's really like bushy and it's got lots of place. And that's what I saw it as. Like, we as people, when we grow and we get so tall and so big and so wide, we end up being able to create shade for other people. Other people get to come and bask in all that we are, all that we've grown, and be in awe of that. And then I like saw it as like, well, then I'm this tree, what if I've grown so tall and so wide? But then like, then what? And then I was like, well, then like just as the leaves and things fall and like you yourself nourish back that ground, new sprouts come along, and it's like, okay, well then it's not just me by myself. I'm just not just one lonely tree. I'm surrounded by all these other trees. And then I saw it like the redwood forest, like boom, we're all tall, we're all shiny, reaching for the sky, branching out our beautiful tree trunks, branches. And now we're a forest. You're surrounded by all these beautiful trees, and then the whole world is surrounded by trees. And then it was like, but then what? It's like, okay, well, if you've grown as far as you can tall, as far as you can wide, if you've stretched your leaves and your branches as far as you can, and your roots are so far into the ground, and you're absorbing and you're being, and I could feel all the air was moving so clearly in my body. Once you've got all of that, then slowly though, the life force of the tree, the life force of us as humans, it begins to slow down. We don't absorb as much as we once did. The life force starts to slow down. And just like with a tree, once everything starts to slow down, things start to dry up. They get dry, and then the tree will fall. And so I saw it like, okay, it's time for this tree to die, to fall, to collapse. But if you've ever been around a tree that either has fallen or maybe has been cut down, you can see that there's generally still the stump there. And sometimes there's those thick roots that you can kind of see that are still there. But what happens is people go, do you remember this tree? Do you remember how big it was, how tall and how wide it was, and how much shade it provided for everyone else around? And then in amongst all the roots, I saw it like these other little sprouted trees coming up. And that's the cycle that we're in with birth and death. And our job as humans is to take all the nutrients, knowing that we're supported, that there's safety there, to grow as tall and as wide and as big as we can. And in that process, we get to support others until it's time for that cycle of energy to go down and for us to go back into the earth, into the ether, our spirit energy, until that cycle continues. And yeah, that was my breathe. And I go, okay, how is that related to money and my intention? It's like, for me, it's really clear, because in order for me to have continual expansion of money, for me to receive it, I have to first feel good in receiving it, so that it's able to come in really easily. I have to have that safety and that trust, and nourish myself. What do I need to nourish to keep growing? And that is how money continues to come in, because it is like this circulation system. Like with our air, you think like what we take that air in, it changes and moves, and then we breathe it back out. And we're just, money is energy that we circulate. So money will come in, and then we choose to spend it on food, on housing, on courses, on things that we want, and it gets circulated back around, and then it comes back in, and we're just in this constant flow with it. And in order to continue that flow, we have to feel good about receiving and be nourished. So that was a little bit of a vulnerable share for me, and but I hope that if you watch this to the end, because I know I talk a lot, that it gave you something, and there are some ahas in there for you. If you have any questions about Rebirthing Breathwork Mastery, the process of it, or my experience, let me know. I have the intention, a 90-minute breathe, and then my debrief. And these are the lessons that I want to share. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. Bye.